Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of the Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling podcast. Today we're going to be talking about picking that right company, the right organization, the ones that are looking to grow. Because once the company is growing, then we can be part of it. Instead of just being one of the cogs in the wheel, we could be part of a growing company where there's lots of opportunity, lots of choices, lots of ways of making a lot of money, and to really maximize our career and have some longevity. So we're going to get into that and talk about all those issues that are around it and what differentiates those great growing companies from the rest of them that kind of just mope along and try and compete against the big growing companies. Before we get into it, I want to make sure you're checking out the show notes below. Just tap the artwork. You'll see all the links to all the partners. We've got Pipe Drive with the coupon code Brutal Truth. Get 60 days free. Go over to Co-Video. Give Video Email a try. I think you'll really like it. It's very engaging. It's personalized. It's the way to connect with another person. Text email it's a has-been because people just don't value it because they know it could be machine generated. It took no effort. It's like a robocall. So video email is the way to connect and engage with people. At the very end, I'll sum up the interview and I'll give you an update on the courses. If you're in them, I'll give you an update on what's going on and how to take advantage of them. Here we go. Hey, Justin, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Brian, great to be here, man. And I've been following you for a long time, so really excited to be on the show. And myself, I am a 10-year really technology veteran. Got my career started in technology back in 2009. I was one of the very first sales hires at a business that had about 10 people called ZocDoc in New York City. A lot of your listeners might know of that business now. They're really big. I think they have nearly 1,000 employees across the country. After that, spent about 5 years there, growing sales teams, running big sales teams, and moved on to my second startup. One called Public Stuff that myself and a buddy joined together and got that acquired in about 12 months by a large government technology company called Acela. And then for the past 5 years, I've been at a company called Patient Pop. Was hired on back in 2015 as really the VP of sales. They had one salesperson who I had worked with previously. And over the past 5 years, this company has just exploded. My sales team has gone from one person to nearly 120 people. And we've gone from really not a dollar in revenue, so $0 in revenue. And today being the end of this quarter, we'll be crossing roughly the $48 million in recurring revenue mark. So been a wild ride for the past 5 years and something I'm really proud of and something I'm really excited about.
Wow. Must have been something moving from New York City to LA though, huh?
Yeah, totally. So, Patient Pop actually hired me in New York City based on the recommendation of a few people, which is really super humbling. And, I was in this sort of like grinded out New York City mentality. And to be honest, like part of me wanted to bring that very same mentality to Los Angeles. And I love LA. I've been living here now for 3 years, and I got a team of people. A lot of my team is from the East Coast. And so we've kind of brought that stigma of New York spirit and attitude over to our team in LA, and it's worked wonders for us.
So you started with one rep. Now that must have been quite a journey, huh? Building the team.
Sure. Oh. Yeah, it was. Go ahead.
What was your strategy there?
Yeah, Brian, my strategy has always really been to do what I know best. So I took a rather, I don't know if you want to call it unorthodox approach to building the team, where if you think about SMB SaaS, our average contract value is, $13,000. So we're not selling enterprise deals here. Generally you're thinking about an inside sales team, high velocity inside sales team with SDRs and AEs. And we have that today. We have a huge team like that. But back then we actually started in the field. And the way that I thought about best building that team was doing something that I know. I'm a field salesperson by trade. So the first field salesperson I had was a guy I had worked with previously. We hired in pairs, and we made sure that we kind of tested it out that way. We went out there, we tried to understand how many subscriptions, how much revenue they could generate by going and meeting with our customers in person. And I really loved that because it gave us really good customer feedback early in the day. It allowed us to really shape our story. And as soon as I felt like I could hire a pair of field salespeople and get really consistent, really good results, we just scaled that slowly but surely in the early days. And that allowed us to really figure out all the things I needed to build a high quality inside sales team. And frankly, like Brian, I hadn't done that before. So by doing what I knew really well, I learned all the story. I learned how customers would react. I learned the sales cycle. I learned how to add additional products. Everything that I needed to then impart onto a new inside sales team was learned in an environment that I was really comfortable in, and that's field sales. And when it came time to build that inside sales team, I just applied what I learned, and I hired some people that were a lot smarter than I was in that respect, building inside sales teams, and said, here's the knowledge, now kind of go do what you do. And that's really how I build teams.
Cool. And is it 100% inside today, or is it inside outside, or?
Yeah, it's a hybrid model. So our business, now that we have about 120 sales folks, is relatively interesting. So it's still in the field a bit, and our field team now focuses on larger deals. Yeah. So that team has moved up market. So they're going around and selling deals that are closer to 25 or 30K in average contract value. I've built a sizable sales development program on the inside. I think it's about 35 people deep at this point. And then we have a relatively large account executive program as well. And most of those people graduate from that SDR role. We found that when people graduate through our sales development program, they're about 30% more effective when they get into an account executive role. And then I have sort of one other additional role that rolls up to me, which is our strategic partnerships team. So we have a sizable team, about 20 people that are out there working with our partners. And our partners leverage our company and our product Patient Pop to go out and be a value add and a differentiator for their product when it's highly commoditized. So I have a team of 20 doing that. And so we have this hybrid model of strategic partnerships, field reps selling a little bit larger deals, and then our high velocity SMB SaaS teams on the inside.
And what's the breakdown between inbound and outbound? Do you separate it that way, or is it geographic, or?
Yeah, we do both. So in the field, we have geographic territories. And to the extent, excuse me, that leads come in that look the right size for that field sales team, we simply qualify those leads and we send them out to the field sales folks. And we also have a sales development program that is actively working paired one-to-one with our field sales team, going out and helping them penetrate their accounts. I've always felt like when you have sort of mature, expensive outside sales reps, like the last thing I want them to be doing is spending all of their time prospecting. Yeah. I think it's always good for them to do some of their time. I think always be hunting is sort of a mantra that we have. But to the extent that I can support them, that's what I want to do. And then on the inside, it's again a kind of a combo. We've got probably 40% inbound, 30% outbound, and 30% what we just call self-generation. So hunting your patch, getting referrals from your current install base. I learned early in my career that one of the biggest mistakes you can make is forming a team that's kicking their legs up on a desk and saying, like, where are my leads? Yeah. I always want them to be going out and actively participating in the funnel build.
Yeah, that's critical. Now, how have you found the geography to be different? I mean, the culture couldn't be further apart.
Yep.
Because I've sold into both New York City and LA, and very different.
Yeah, it's a great question. So, I mean, I think there's this stigma surrounding both cities, right? People move to New York to kind of do the hustle and grind, and the stigma surrounding Los Angeles is that people move here to, get into the industry or go surfing or whatever. And listen, I think with those things always comes a little bit of truth. But for me, it's finding the diamond in the rough. It's finding that young guy or young girl who is here in LA and is a grinder, someone who's a learner, someone who wants to come into an organization and make an impact at an early age. And part of that is to me, just how you hire and how you identify your candidates. So I recently brought in an executive leader, Kevin Dorsey, to my team, who is a well-known guy for going out and finding strong salespeople. And so we just interview a lot. We interview every single day. We're finding the best. We bring a lot of people from different cities. I'm a big fan of like finding talent anywhere and bringing them here and plugging them in, because I hate being confined to an area, Brian, where I have to find talent in a 20-mile radius, because I'm competing against other, really great businesses like Service Titan and Snack Nation, and we're all talking to the same people. So to the extent that I can go outside and find talent in a different geography, like I'll do that.
And that's why I kind of wonder, like in the Valley, that the people are, they're just musical chairs all the time.
Sure.
And I'm wondering why they're not going to kind of the flyover states where there's, a ton of people coming out of school who want great jobs.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. Like, I think the world is going towards the way of distributed work. And while today we have a distributed field team, we don't quite yet have a distributed inside team. Yeah. But that's like something that I think about every day, right? If there's, a sales rock star, and for, pardon me for using cliche words, but like if there's a sales rock star in Idaho, I want that person. If there's a young girl in Montana who can double my quota, then I want to get that person. Like I want to know about that person, and I don't want the fact that they're not within a 15-minute radius from my office to not to be, the ender there. So that's how Kevin and I are thinking when we're going about hiring our team. And we think about that every single day, and it's just a matter of kind of figuring out the logistics before you can do that really successfully. And I'm aware that there are some logistical issues that come with that. So, but I'm with you.
And what do you look for in a person, like a entry level SDR? What's important to you? What don't you care about?
Yeah, I don't care about. It may sound really weird to say, but like, I don't care about resumes, because like, to me, the resume is just a sales story, right? Like, believe it or not, I've never interviewed someone who was in the bottom 50% of their last job. They're all superstars. Every time the resume hits my desk, you would think that that person doesn't exist. So I tend not to care about like logos or resumes all that much. Like, I care about how somebody performs when they have an opportunity to do their best. And that is generally when they're sitting in front of myself, they're sitting in front of one of my sales leaders. Like, that's the opportunity for them to show me how they act when the pressure is on. And so I want to see, is someone well prepared? Is someone energetic? Is someone enthusiastic? And then the thing I care about the most is, are they curious? Because what I've found is that when I think about the top 5 people on my inside sales team, they all have this like curiosity trait where some people might even find it annoying, right? They're asking so many questions. They want to know every little detail. I love that. Like, I want to see that in every single person that I hire, where they're just like peeling back the onion constantly, and giving them a little bit of the answer at a time is never good enough for them. So when someone says, hey, Justin, I hope you have a little bit of extra time. I got 25 questions I want to ask you at the end of this interview. And they're not, cliche questions. They're questions they really care about. To me, that's like that's a really great sign. And I love curiosity, enthusiasm, and energy.
Do you care about what kind of degree, or if a degree?
No, not at all. No, I don't. Like, I just don't, because like, to me, it's not relevant. Like, yeah. If it makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside, then I mean, I guess great. But like, to me, I'm not like, hey, everyone, I want to announce the top 3 salespeople from last quarter. And by the way, here's where they went to college. Like, who cares, right? Like, for me, I want to see that they come in, they're enthusiastic about 3 things. They're enthusiastic about our customers, right? Because it's the number one thing I care about, and it's the number one thing that drives growth, is treating our customers well. They're enthusiastic about our business, right? Growing Patient Pop. And they're enthusiastic about their career, like actually performing and saying, like, I'm the best of the best in this job. And if you care about those 3 things and you didn't have money to go to college or whatever, like, I mean, I'm not going to hold that against anyone. Does that make sense?
It does. And I'm always kind of shocked that people still value it so highly. And even what major.
Yeah.
I was talking.
Sorry, I was just gonna say, like, I don't even care if people are all that smart, to be honest. Like, and I know that may sound funny, but I have this statement. I say action over academia. Like, I know a lot of really smart people who come into a role and never accomplish anything, and I know a lot of people who, may not be your definition of, book smart or magna cum laude or whatever you want to say, but they come in and they're enthusiastic, participatory, and they get stuff done and they perform. And so for me, it's all about, like, what do you do when you have an opportunity, not, your degree or your grade point average or anything like that. So sorry to cut you off.
Have you found any correlations between either athletics or performing arts?
Yeah, I have. I've found a lot of correlation between athletics, especially. So if I look at my team, it's really that competitive edge. I'm thinking of a girl on my team right now, whose name I won't mention so people don't poach her. But she's just like, she was a college athlete. She's hyper competitive, like to the point where even if she's 200% to quota, if someone's 201, she's there at midnight. Like, I love that spirit. I love, like, that defines Patient Pop and our inside sales team and really our field and our channel teams as well. And so, yeah, I find a really big correlation around competition, but I also have a lot of people who it wouldn't necessarily be what I would consider your normal performing arts, like getting on stage and being in plays. Although I think that stuff is great. I've seen a lot of, like, debate club. I've seen a lot of sort of that academic competition. Yeah. As long as there's sort of a competitive edge to it, I've seen that go over really well.
Yeah, I think the competitiveness and the ability to take feedback.
Totally.
Yeah, because that's what you get in the performing arts. When you learn the piano or singing, you get constant feedback. And
totally.
Same thing with sports. There's a coach built in, and you get nothing for your birthright, right? You either perform or you don't.
That's right. And when it comes from both of those sort of arenas, I see one additional thing that's helpful. Taking feedback is like one part of the equation. Hey, my manager sees something, he or she tells me about it, I take that feedback. The thing that comes out of athletics or performing arts is the proactive self-coaching. Yeah. Right? It's sitting down, having been a football player, having been on the debate club, and before your coach or your manager or whomever is giving you feedback can even get to you, you're sitting on the bench or sitting in a seat and you're reviewing your own performance. And you're saying, man, what did I do well? What would I have done differently if I could have done this again? That is what comes from athletics and performing arts that I think is really strong, where it's like self-evaluation, self-coaching. I always picture Tom Brady sitting on the bench, like reviewing play photographs before the coach gets over there because he cares so much. So that's kind of how I think about, coming from those arenas.
And you also brought up curiosity, which is kind of one of the main ingredients of emotional intelligence. Mm-hmm. Do you interview for that? Do you have, certain ways of testing for that?
Yeah, I do. So there are generally two ways that I'll sort of test for that. The one is the easy way. It's the standard way, which is like how often does the person in the interview ask good questions, right? What do they want to know from me? They meet 4 different people generally on my team. Do they ask the same questions, or do they understand as they move up the ladder from, a manager to a director to a VP, sort of how they should be framing their questions, what each person should be able to tell them, and do they come prepared, wanting to learn? By the time that someone gets to me at the end and I say, hey, do you have any questions? And they say, actually everyone's answered my questions. I think, wow, I'm in a different role. Do you have any questions that are specific to my role or specific to how I interact with this position that you're interviewing for? And if they haven't thought through that, then they're probably not that curious. And then the other thing that I do is oftentimes I'll give someone an assignment, and that assignment will come with relatively little context. I'll provide slight context a little bit and say, hey, why don't you come in here and kind of get ready to solve this problem or this challenge or pitch this product. And sometimes I don't hear from them before they come in. And I never say you can't ask questions. I never say you can't drill down and figure out how to get more information. So when they reach out to me and they say like, hey, Justin, this is really great. I'm really excited about this project. Here are 15 questions I have that might make this project a little easier or help me understand exactly what you're looking for. Then I know that somebody is at least curious enough where, when they're put in a challenging position at their role at Patient Pop, they're going to go out and they're going to find those answers, whether it's through their manager, through Googling, through calling a peer or a mentor. And that's genuinely what I care most about.
And what separates the B players from the A players in your perspective?
Yeah, I think I'm not going to curse, so I'll try and say it in a way that's not cursing. Like giving a crap, caring,
emotionally attached.
Yeah, like I've never been able to really answer this question effectively. I guess I'll try and paint a picture. There are certain people on my team that are like you said, emotionally attached, right? My inside sales team hit their quota yesterday. And there are certain people who are like, yeah, that's great. That's awesome. But there's that next level superstar who's like, okay, what about the company quota? Okay, what about, my manager's quota? What about next quarter's quota? What is it? I want to start getting prepared for that. Like you can just see this intensity, this emotional attachment. And it's when you get folks in a room, you can look on their faces and you can see the people who genuinely are attached to Patient Pop's mission of helping practices thrive, growing our business. And to me, it's just like, do you have that or do you not have that internally? And I don't believe that you can coach that. I believe that's something that is something that's baked into somebody's personality, and it's your job to go out and find that thing inside of people before you make a hire.
And do you try and focus it on the team, on the individual, both? I guess both would be natural.
Yeah. We have a president's club and we have leaderboards and we love pumping, people who are top performers. We love that. But Kevin and I on the inside and Max and I on the outside and Robert and Channel, we're focused on the team goal, right? Like nothing irritates me more than watching Devin Booker score 51 points the other night and everyone getting really excited while the Suns lost. Like that to me is like everything that's wrong with the way that people are thinking about things. Like this is a team effort. Like, yeah, Jim might have a great month or Jane might have a great month, but if the company is not achieving their goals, and sure, the paycheck feels good and the recognition feels good, but we're in this as a team. And so we lean on that heavily and we celebrate those wins heavily, much more heavily than we celebrate individual accomplishments.
And through the years, have you made, hiring mistakes and really learned from them?
Ooh. Oh yeah. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Geez. I probably made twice as many mistakes as I've made good hires. I think that's part of the learning process. Every time I make a mistake, I learn so much. And I would say, some of the bigger mistakes I've made is I used to Rolodex hunt. Yeah. Like, hey, this guy or gal has an amazing Rolodex, and they come in and say, we got all these established relationships. And, what I have come to find over time is, sure, you go in and you ask that customer how their kids are, you have a great relationship. But when you ask them to pull out their credit card and pay $20K for something, suddenly that relationship isn't as strong as you thought. And so I don't do that a lot anymore. I don't focus on, can this person help us get into our customer base? Because there's a finite win there. And so what I look at is the infinite win. I look at somebody that's going to come in and have a process that they can use, over time that works for a long time, that helps us win business. And then I think the other mistake I've made is one that I just talked about a little bit earlier, which is like being really impressed with people who on paper appear extraordinarily intelligent, right? Oh, this person went to Harvard, this person went to Yale, they came out, they worked for a big brand, a big logo. I used to become really impressed with those things. And I realized there's a difference between, a thinker and a doer. And I like when people are thoughtful and intelligent, and that is a helpful thing. But I got a lot of folks on my team who are just action-based. They're doers. They go out and I say, here's $1 million quota, go make this happen. And they go make it happen. Right. And so I try and take less of that into consideration, as I mentioned earlier in this podcast, where I tend to care less about those things today than I do about, I've been at 5 companies in the past 20 years, and I've been the top performer in every single solitary place I've gone. That to me weighs a little bit more heavily.
Yeah, that competition and stuff.
Sure.
Now, what I hear from reps almost all the time is that their managers have, either KPIs or structure that gets in the way of them selling as opposed to enable them to sell. And, part of it might be whining, but the other part of it might be a mismatch between the model and the market, or their particular part of the market. How do you cope with that?
Yeah, I think the easiest way to cope with that is to set the expectation of what the KPIs are very early, right? And it's not you do this because I said so, or we make 60 calls because that's the way that it goes, or you schedule 20 demos because that's what we say. I like to put a why behind everything we tell people. Hey, why do we ask you to make 60 calls a day? Why is 20 demos scheduled on the calendar the right thing? I love to show people the math. I love to show people the data behind what makes folks successful. And when I do that, generally it doesn't feel like micromanagement. Generally, people will come away from that conversation and say, oh, that makes sense. If I want to sell 5 subscriptions this month, I got to give 20 demos. And if I want to schedule 20 demos, I got to make about 60 calls every day. And those KPIs now make sense. I don't feel as though I'm held to those because, that's what my manager wants me to do. I'm held to those because as I look around, the room of 50 other salespeople, that's what success looks like. That's what helps people reach their quota. And over time, and I'm thinking about a few different people on my team, if you can do it in 30 calls and you're doubling your quota, then you're never going to find one of my managers going and saying, hey, Jim, you made 30 calls today. And Jim saying, well, I'm at 2x my quota. We don't care about that. We're not an assembly line, right? We're not an assembly line. We're an output station. So it's if you're showing us the output on the bottom of the funnel, or whatever the bottom of your job is, right? Scheduling demos, closing deals, bringing on partners, whatever. Like, as long as you're showing that output, I generally don't care how you get there, but we love to give you a model that's been helpful.
Yeah, because I think you have to have, some boundaries. Like, you got to get into work by a certain time and stay for a certain minimum time. Everybody's got some structure to it. But I've always found like the top reps find the smarter way of doing it, right? They really just find something that works for them. And it may not translate to other people. It might be, charisma or whatever, personality, or a certain skill set over either on the phone or email or social, and they can just cook.
Totally.
And I think a lot of people today want cookie cutter assembly line, and that, it can work, in the smaller transactional high velocity sale. But at the startup stage, it's a lot of experimentation.
Totally.
Are you guys past the experimentation, or is it still?
Yeah, it's a great question. I don't think about experimentation as a phase. I would say, like, to me, the best teams are always experimenting. I never think, boy, we're in a position where our stick rate, our show rate can't get better. Our average, customers per deal can't get better. Our attach rate for ancillary services can't get better. So the way that I think about that is to constantly experiment. And what I do with my leadership team is I'm a very hypothesis-based sales leader. So I make a hypothesis. Hey, if we do X, then Y will happen. I think we can go prove that. We'll get, an N of 5. So take, 4 or 5 folks, put them on an experiment and go run that experiment and track those results. So for me, it's always, experiment, track, iterate, repeat. It's running experiments all the time, as long as they're not disruptive, to figure out if you can get 1%, 5%, 10% better. Because when you start to reach, 50 million in recurring revenue, like applying a 1 or 2% improvement across your different areas of your business is it works like compound interest. It's pretty impressive. So I'm always out there experimenting. So that was a long way of saying no. We're not past that stage. We're still experimenting, and we most likely always will be.
Yeah, I guess so. Because everything changes, right?
That's right.
The social changes, email changes, the phone, all of that. It just we have to adapt to that.
Totally. I'm notorious for sending out 4 a.m. Slacks to my leadership team saying like, "Hey, I saw this online last night. What do you like? What do you think? Do you like this? Would this work? Is this cool?" And most of my guys are like, leave me alone, go to sleep. But every once in a while, I find something pretty cool that I like to share. So yeah, we're always just checking stuff out.
Cool. Hey, this has been a great conversation. Where can people go to learn more about your company, your work, and see the openings you might have?
Sure. So the easiest way to learn about Patient Pop is just patientpop.com. That's patient like a doctor's, patient pop like popcorn. If you want to learn about the careers, you can just go up and check the About section and hit the careers page. We're hiring a ton of people. If you want to learn more about me, you can go to Justin D. Welsh, that's WELSH.com, or you can follow me on Twitter at Justin SAAS.
What a great story. I love to see people who kind of figured out their system, their way of approaching it, and being able to scale that either through other people or through themselves. And scaling it is critical because we only got 24 hours in a day. And no matter how you use it or how do you really apply it is what differentiates us. So please check them out. Also, connect up with me on LinkedIn. I'm running out of connections, but you can always follow. I've got a lot of great videos that I'm posting pretty much daily. I've got a page for the podcast called The Brutal Truth About Sales and Selling, company page over on LinkedIn. I put out a bunch of videos every day, some funny, some informative. Also, you can check out the YouTube channel, Brian Burns Sales over on YouTube. I did a great episode over the weekend with Steve Woods about how to automate the integration and the population of the CRM. You might want to check that out at nudge.ai. And also, to give you an update on the courses, I've added a new element. The one-on-ones are kind of expanding to mentorship, deal coaching, anything that has to do with applying that course material to your situation. Walk through examples with you, go and get into new accounts, win deals, and it's all recorded and put into the course. So everybody's content gets put into the course. So we have this network effect of being able to, every new student increases the value of the course. The value of the course increases daily because I'm doing all these one-on-ones. So both courses, you have a year-long access. It's not a membership. You can pay for it all at once or over 12 monthly payments, up to you, whatever makes sense for you. And what you get is all the content immediately day one. You consume it at your pace. You have office hours, which is a group community meetup every other Friday, and we talk through the content. We talk through the problems. We talk through the issues. It's recorded, put into the course. And then unlimited one-on-ones. So you and me, we get onto Zoom and we talk through the content and applying it to a deal that you're trying to get into. Now, I know you're all comfortable not making your number, right? Are you willing? Are you willing to take a little bit of time, a little bit of money, and apply it to your career over a 12-month period to get your game to the next level? Or are you unwilling to sit around and have all these great excuses for why you're not crushing your number? Time is not going to wait for you. Time is going to go by whether you do this or not. You just got to ask yourself, are you willing to apply yourself? Are you willing to try it out? Are you willing to get better? Or are you just a B player stuck in that trap of, I know everything, it's the economy. Hey, it's not the economy. This is the best economy we've ever had in the history of man. Okay, is it my company? Well, that's your choice. You can choose to get into a new company. Is it my territory? Well, if it's your territory, you got to go do something else. You got to renegotiate it, go to another company, or make the best of it. We go through all of these issues to help you reach the goal that you want. So check it out at b2brevenue.com. You can schedule a 15-minute call to talk it over. But before you do, make sure you listen to at least 5 episodes to self-qualify. Does the content that I'm sharing here fit what you're selling? Are you in B2B sales with multiple decision makers, large dollar amounts, multiple sales calls, highly competitive? If you're not, then it's probably not the right match for you. Also, if you could just tell one person this week about the brutal truth, I'd certainly appreciate it and be a lifelong friend of yours. Check out the show notes for all the partnership data, they got lots of great content. Pipedrive is putting out some great blog posts. So is Nudge.ai, Gong.io, and CoVideo. These are all great partners, and they're putting out great content. I also, if you're a Walking Dead fan, I interviewed the author on the B2B Revenue Leadership Show. Check that out. It's a great topic about how to put our stories into stories that we can tell our clients. We all have stories. We just have to apply them to the business situation. Also, if you have questions, you can email them to me on LinkedIn. I answer them on the Sales Questions Brutally Honest Answers podcast. So appreciate your time. We'll see you next time.